lot has happened in the last couple of weeks. California finalized the regulations. Maryland is now in effect, and privacy professionals are still trying to figure it out. So today we're going to talk about a real use case and why asking for receipts pays off. So I'm going to share a business-facing perspective. Derek will dive into the second layer of the technical details. And so let's get going. Welcome back to No Cookies for You.
Cool. Thanks, Amanda. As part of our episodes, right, we do a little review of cookies. So today I've got a Oreo mint chocolate ice cream bar, which I'm pretty excited about because it's a combination of my love for Oreos, my love for mint, and having them frozen. So pretty excited to review it today. And Amanda, do you have something for us?
I have two. This is a 2-for-1 episode. Crumble. So this is a little for 3 packs. I know that we've talked about this before. This first one is a key lime cookie, and it has it's frosting and then a little lime on top, and it's supposed to be excellent. And then Crumble had a birthday celebration. So I have this Oreo birthday cake one. They're minis, and so I'm going to cut them in half, and then I will pie hole the first half, and I will give the other half to my husband. I'm not going to eat all these cookies first thing in the morning. So that's what we're doing over here. Yeah, pretty excited. If anyone wants to send us a Crumble gift card, we'll happily take it.
I thought that was an avocado on top of the cookie. The green thing.
Oh, because I guess I was showing like that angle. No, it's a line. It's a little line.
Cool.
All right.
So Amanda, I know you had a really cool use case you wanted to walk through. So hey, let's dive in.
All right. So I know we've shared before that we suggest asking for documentation in your privacy threshold analysis. So if a requester says no personal information, no sensitive personal information, ask for some documentation. That could be a schema, that could be a high-level design, that could be a contract with a supplier, but anything that would indicate that there's really no personal information being exchanged, either with the processing or with the vendor. Now, we're simultaneously rethinking how we are assessing privacy impact, but I'll leave that for another episode. So we have shared that, and we thought this episode would be really cool because there was an example where it actually paid off. So I'm not going to share the exact details, but to kind of illustrate what happened. So the requester said no personal information, no sensitive personal information, and attached the SQL documentation, the SQL script to the assessment. I was like, this is great. And so I open it up, and I can see personal information, likely personal information attributes that they probably didn't think were personal information. And so, it's not the common first name, last name, but it's a little more like non-standard, I will call it. And so I saw that SQL, I saw those attributes in the SQL script, and then I ran it through ChatGPT. And I'm like, what is this doing? And highlight the privacy risks. And so ChatGPT really spit out a great explanation that helped me understand. It was kind of what I suspected, but I wasn't sure because I'm not a super technical person. I know enough to be dangerous, but that's about it. And it was sharing and combining data in our ecosystem. So it was an opportunity for me to help educate the business requester that these attributes aren't, these are personal information attributes. So like, and this is something that I've heard more and more recently is people don't understand that email address is personal information, that first name is personal information. What they think of personal information is like social security number, and it's far more benign than that. And so we've really tried to educate people, and I use these examples to help educate the business when they submit something and there's definitely personal information. I reiterate, no, first name is, they'll put in the description, we're sharing name and email address, and then mark no personal information. I'm like, no, 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 we that is personal information. So I think we can, it's a matter of educating the business, but it's also illustrating why asking for proof is so important, because people don't, it's not that they are bad actors, they just genuinely don't understand. So, Derek, what other things have you come across that you think would be helpful from a technical perspective, like developer facing or um, like that?
Yep. Sorry about that. Amanda and folks had to switch locations really quick, and yeah, loved your example, and kind of love how you called out about folks kind of not understanding sometimes that just kind of having one piece personal information like email address is something to be considered as far as personal information. Um, great example and kind of use case for me is like think of collecting information on an online form, right? It's like you're looking for cookie crumbs, pun intended, of where things are being captured. And when you're getting, say, like a documentation or schema, or you're reviewing an assessment, you're looking into the code, things to look out for is like JavaScript functions that are capturing information from that form. So you'll see a lot of things like first name, last name, email address, phone number, maybe physical address. And within that function, right, it's likely calling something that's going to be passing that information somewhere. Um, so what's interesting too is like once you capture that, right, you got to think of things like the formatting of an email address being entered, the phone number, right? Because if those things aren't set up correctly, you're setting yourself up for, hey, I might get a request to correct information right down
Mhm.
the road, which is, additional work. So things that I look out for are like JavaScript functions and something called like a fetch call that, is sending that information somewhere. Another thing too is, think of like server side code as well. So maybe that information is being passed to, a Python script or Python program. And when you're taking a look at, the code for it, again, you want to look at things like first name, last name, email, etc. And it's likely going to be passing that information into storage, right? So maybe like a database. So you'll have, um, you look for the variables, and then you might find some like Python, SQL that's inserting that information. Um, and that's where you can kind of find where it's being stored, right? So you're doing like really good detective work on understanding, hey, this, processing activity now, this is where it's starting, and this is where the information is being stored. And then, if you have like a solid data map, who has access to that
Right.
storage, right? And what other, uh, algorithms are being used with the information in that database, for example. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Amanda, if I didn't.
totally. And I think you weaved in something that's important, like why, I want just reminding everyone why we care about personal information. We care, obviously we need to protect it. But if someone is storing unique personal information, or if they're doing something like it could be subject to data subject rights request. So no matter what like, we care about where the personal information, what's happening with it, from just, a consent perspective, making sure that there's nothing crazy, but also we need to know about where it's going and where it's being stored so that we can accurately respond to people's data subject rights requests. Right. So that's just, another thing why we care, and another thing to keep in mind. It's not, I tell people it's not just us being nosy about your process. We don't need to get in your chili. I just need to understand, because I I care, I want to be able to respond to access requests, make sure consent is being cared for, etc. So I think that was a really good like tidbit of like why we care, because someone may ask you to correct it down the line.
Hmm.
Um, and that could be, complicated if you don't have an idea of what's happening. Um, well, I just want to share with this audience that I finished my half of the Oreo birthday cake. It was excellent. And it goes lovely with my coffee. Um, yeah, so it was like the perfect combination. But this key lime one, I thought it was going to be super rich. And Crumble just does it right. They just do it right.
Awesome. Yeah, the Oreo ice cream was probably a little too good. So I need to make sure that I'm not not eating a ton of them. But yeah, definitely highly recommended. And um, I got to get some cookies from this place you keep getting it
Oh,
from.
Crumble's legit. Uh, there's other like small cookie shops, but they are like, they're a Utah company. They're like now nationwide, I think. Um, but I think they started in Utah, so I'll still pretend that they are a Utah company and haven't completely blown up. The one guy who owns the other cookie shop down my road, because as I've said before, we like our sugar in Utah. He actually lives down the street from me. Um, and he was running for mayor. He's like 26 years old. And I'm like, this dude can't even take care of his front lawn, much less like take care of the city. I'm like, no, I'm not going to patronize this anymore. Um, yeah. Anyhow, that's right, now we're going into like political chit chat. I'm like, I look at once I found out where he lived, and I was like, oh, that house that has the dying lawn and weeds growing out of everywhere, and yeah, dying trees. I don't trust him.
Does that person listen to this podcast?
Well, if they do, I'll probably get a knock at my door
Oh
at some
man.
point. This podcast is for everyone. It's a family friendly show. We don't get into politics too often, except for when I talk trash about the neighbor running for mayor and owns the coffee and cookie shop. All right. Well, now that you guys listened to my tangent, um, do we have anything before we depart? Give our listeners a little time back in the day?
Yeah, let's give them some time back. And thanks for listening to Amanda and I banter as usual. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out.
All right. No cookies for you at gmail.com. Have a great day, everyone.
See you later.